The Hail Varsity Radio Saturday morning show. Strap yourselves in. Here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt.
Y'all don't even know he was a virgin until he's 28, and now, roll tide.
And Mark Kraynak.
Time has come for someone to put his foot down. And that foot is me.
Welcome to it. Weekend editions here. It's Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, and Mark Kraynak en route. As we'll hear from Mr. Kraynak. Great to have you in. As we love doing this here, 7:45-ish. Saturday mornings. Hail Varsity YouTube, Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter at H Varsity Radio. Both platforms you can watch. KFOR, Facebook, and Twitter as well. As I feel like it's that scene Saturday mornings for many of you. And a lot of times you'll get in your Saturday morning time hacks. You'll make your shout out. You'll make your score prediction as to what time will actually start Saturday morning. And you'll throw out a 7:52. Many of you have moved off the 7:45 sharp line. That's why it's a 7:45-ish start. But it's kind of like the betting scene in Shawshank, right? Who's the first dude to break down in prison? And it's the fat guy that Haywood circled and had the winning horse. Now, the big guy in Shawshank didn't fare well, so we're going to have a little better episode today than the big guy in prison in Shawshank. Wow. Elijah, how are you? It's been a while since we rock and rolled. I mean, a Friday show, a Friday ball game. And, wow, here we are. We'll get our starting five shout-outs, some portal thoughts. It is winter conditioning time for Nebraska football in the short term, and what's that look like for spring additions and attritions. We have wrestling to hit on. We have Husker basketball to look at. Plenty to get into, and national championship games. So old man Winter is decided to win the fourth quarter here because, man, we're all going South Park here this morning with stocking hats and sweatshirts, dude. What's up?
Yeah, first and foremost, how I'm doing freaking cold. Thursday and Friday, where you're hitting like low 50s, high 40s, ruined me today. Stepped outside, that cold slapped me in the dang face. So that's the first and foremost. Other than that, we got a good ball game last night. Lincoln Northeast and Southwest. That Northeast team is really hitting their stride. Lazarick Houston, really fun to watch. Southwest team kind of got a little out of rhythm in the second quarter, and their comeback attempt fell just short in the fourth. So really fun Friday night basketball game. Now we rock and roll on a Saturday. I'm ready for some NFL playoffs, ready to talk some Huskers here this morning. Can't complain. It's the weekend, baby.
Well, and, interested to see what Nebraska team shows up on Sunday with basketball as they're in the midst of a 3-game skid. They got the toughness challenge. That is happening. Excited. I'm going to Ashland tonight, meeting Uncle Mark, going to a steakhouse up there that there's been some rave reviews for. So fired up for that. Junior's already out the door. It's his girlfriend's birthday. So before he heads to Lazari's to fire up the pizza machine at 10, he is, I think, doing the birthday breakfast brunch. Shout outs this morning. Rick is in. Rick got in 10 till 5 a.m. God love you, Rick. Justin is here. Justin, we echo the congratulations out for Husker Wrestling with Vandy and Lovett with their wins last night. Penn State took the duel 31-7, but man, our friends at Hurrdat and Hail Varsity did really cool coverage on social media and some of the video services / streaming stuff with interaction, fan interaction, and different picture and video postings. And what a scene at the Vandy with folks waiting in line to get into the Vandy Center for what Coach Manning, and we were excited to have him on this week. He wanted to pack the bob, and boy, did Nebraska fans do so. Husker Nation, Uncle Andy and Uncle Mitch were there, my brother-in-law and his brother. They're huge wrestlers. They're state champions from back in the day from Amherst. So they love wrestling, and Nebraska fans love wrestling. I think the Iron Horse may have been on site, Gary Sharp. Sharp, he'll be with us here in about 45 minutes. But Nebraska didn't take the duel, but the fans showed out, and you had a couple of pretty cool upsets for Nebraska in wrestling. And it's just a testament to the fan base, but really a testament to the Manning program with what they're doing and kind of the caliber they're at. So good point, Justin. Jake is in all the way from Bellevue, Ohio. Jake, good to have you in this morning. Uncle Larry is here. Uncle Larry, good to have you. Walter says, what's up? And says the next person that says global warming gets punched in the face. Walter, south of Philly, in rare form as he joins us at 6:52. Mike in from Cali. Mike, stay safe, brother. Arlo is here. Mr. Erickson, all the way in from South Dakota. Appreciate you. Walter says the ceiling fan is hibernating for the winter. Yeah, there's three buttons, and I still been in this house 8 years. Don't know which is which. I know these two main lights on the kitchen island that work, and that's kind of all I stick to. Other switches in this home may have been turned off and on. We moved in the infamous Ohio State week in 2017, October 15th. The Joe Burrow went off in the fourth quarter game, if you remember, where Nebraska didn't really want to come out of the gate to take on that Ohio State team.
One of the only Husker games that in my life that I have left at halftime was that Ohio State game.
I love that topic. Because you have a reality where folks will win, lose, or draw. Folks, about 4.5 minutes, 3 minutes left. 5 minutes left. They start sprinting for the exits at PBA. I'm not judging you. I know it's wintertime and you're parking downtown late on a Thursday night. I get it. That's stuff to do Friday. But, when it looks like the comeback is bleak, everybody runs for the fire drill. I get it. But I mean, I've not ever left early. I have wanted to leave early. I think the last time I wanted to leave an air quote assignment early was probably after the first drive USC came to town. It's like, 3 straight fullback runs, and it's 7-0 in 4 plays for John David Booty and Pete Carroll. I think this was 2007 when SC came to town. I was like, this be one of those days, huh? Oklahoma State in 2007. A lot of 07s in here. A&M in 2007. Those were some rough ball games. K-State in 2003. That thing got absolutely bloody.
Well, dear God. I'm looking up the stats here. I forgot how lopsided this game was. I knew it was bad because I left at halftime. That, to be fair, was my freshman year of college, and there was exciting things to do on the weekend. Not named watching.
There was beer pong to be played.
41 first downs from Ohio State that day. 633 total yards of offense. They were 31 of 39 through the air, and not to mention it, 280 yards on the ground. Dear God.
Yeah, they put up a monster day. And
J.D. Spielman, though, 200 receiving yards.
No, I know. He went. He
had the long one. He had one long one, if I remember.
Was it like 70, 80 yarder?
Yeah, and then he had a punt return. Was that a touchdown as well? I can't remember.
Might have been.
Or not. He had a long one as well.
Yeah,
he had a decent day, but he was the only one.
Yeah, that was a rough season. In 2017, Tuck is here. Somebody shut the freezer door. Tuck, totally agree with that. Black Hills Brennan, brother. Good to have you in. Bright-tailed and bushy-eyed this morning, or is it the other way around? It's a good question. NASCAR Eric is here. Good to have you, NASCAR Eric. KG checks in. KG, good to have you. Appreciate you checking in. Brian Snitley, part of the Boulder Peace Treaty. IGC going for his doctorate elsewhere via the portal. I appreciate IGC, man. I do. Battling back from injury, sticking it out, and now it's time to go one last rodeo somewhere else. Steve Dean is in. Steve, good to have you. Appreciate it. Charles checks in. Charles, good to say what's up. Brent here as well. And Mike is in. And he says, till the bitter end. So Mike, I don't think leaves early. But do you get on fellow fans for leaving early? I kind of do. I kind of do for basketball. I mean, I look at that game where Bryce hits the three, and it's a 1-point game, and there's still 5-6 seconds left. Anything can happen. You can get a couple of missed free throws and go Jamar Johnson from half court and win that bastard. Didn't happen, but I don't know. I'll say this: Papa Al, my father-in-law, likes to get out early. He likes to sprint to the exits.
It depends on game situation, and it depends. Like Thursday night, it's a late night game, so I kind of understand people saying, you know what, even if Nebraska wins, it's not worth me being dead tired at work tomorrow. I can understand that. I don't agree with it.
It's a traffic thing. It's a congestion
thing. That's what I'm saying. Like even if Nebraska wins, you're going to sit in traffic for 25, 30 minutes. By the time you get back home, it's now 11:30, and you got to get up for work at 6, and that's brutal. I get that. I'm not the type of guy that's going to leave early. I'll sacrifice my sleep, but I don't fault other people. It's
personal choice.
Personal choice. And then you have the blowout factor in some games too, where you can't fault people. It's a game by game basis. I'm not going to say I'm not going to cast a wide net and say, I don't like people leaving early. You know what? People have lives to live.
They do, but I'm saying you go for presumably to watch your team win, and part of the experience is being there and being able to soak in those moments in time where maybe it's an incredible comeback, right? How many folks do you know that left the Ohio State game early in 2011 and then came back?
My dad, I was watching that game with my dad. My uncle John was in town from Colorado. As my brother and I. My dad wanted to leave at halftime of that Ohio State game, and I said no. And that is still one of the best decisions I've ever made.
You putting your foot down to Papa.
Well, because it started raining at halftime. It was chilly. It started raining at halftime. You were in the press box. You were fat and happy up there. I was braving the elements, and Dad wanted to go home. I said no. We're staying until the bitter end, and got to see is it still the biggest comeback in Memorial Stadium history? I assume?
It is, because it was until I think that Wisconsin game in 2012. The ugly uniform game was also a big comeback. We bring in Brandon Vogel, counterread.com. Vogues was wearing his singlet, but switched to Saturday morning show attire. Vogues, how are you, dude? Good to see you.
I should have worn my singlet. I have that in the closet.
I'm doing well because I'm not wearing a singlet. I've spoken about it before with you guys, I know, but wrestling was kind of compulsory, at least for a stretch, when I was in junior high, and tried it even younger than that as an elementary student, because it was one of the few sports we had available, youth-wise, way out in the sticks. I was not built for that. Let's put it that way. So time in a singlet is some of my most traumatic time that I can recall.
Well, the line from the movie Back to School, the next thing you know, you're pinned to a sophomore named Chip. Makes it can send that shiver down your spine, because you got to be a really good psycho to be good at wrestling, and I mean that as a compliment. And I went to a buddy's wrestling practice once as a fat asthmatic in grade school and said, this ain't for me. Vogues, getting your head caved in, or caving heads in your case, you just didn't feel like that was your calling.
No, I mean, you're right. It takes a special kind of person to be a great wrestler, and being from where I'm from, like, the guys that might have a Saturday meet and then go brand some cattle on Saturday evening, afternoon, and then do it again on Sunday. Like, there are a lot of those people around who are much more, I guess, naturally aligned with the sport of wrestling than I was. I'm too soft, is what I'm trying to say.
It's all right.
I
Good to
I
have
don't
you.
and personally, I just didn't like
Nice to be here.
the wearing a singlet in the strange positions that wrestlers get put into. You know, didn't quite like
You
sladling.
went there.
It's a real thing of like, I didn't want to. That wasn't me. I didn't want to do that. Like,
Yeah.
strange position. But then they got like they get like the shoulders all contorted around and the knees and the hips, and it just that was not for me. Not flexible enough for that.
Yeah. Unlikely to be a guy wearing Speedos then either, it seems like.
Oh no,
your
no,
thing.
you'll never catch me in a Speedo. That's
I just
Let's go ahead and quote that. Let's go ahead and quote that. That's the episode.
Kraynak, you've got the shout out that says "Find me on TikTok." Well played. I'm not on TikTok, but
Me
I
either.
do love watching the Instagram reels from time to time, and I'm watching this. Whatever showed up on my feed is some sort of wrestling match, and it's a pretty famous little clip where you've got mom and grandma screaming, "Go get him, Johnny!" and Johnny's on his back, and whoever's wrestling Johnny is just teabagging the hell out of him unintentionally. And you got mom and grandma screaming, "Get him, Johnny! Get him, Johnny!" and right, I mean, it's like 10 seconds of just pure domination by the other person. Vogues, you're uncomfortable, sorry, but maybe you've seen the clip I'm talking about. If I find it again, I'll send it your way because I know you'll be joyful.
I don't think I have seen that one, but you
know. I mean, it's
you
within
painted the picture
uniform.
pretty well. I think I got
It's
it.
within uniform. It's not a hazing
Are you
incident.
sure? Are you sure, folks? Do you want us to describe it longer or in more
No, I'm
words? Okay.
But let it be known that like all this entire conversation, we're not talking trash in the sport of wrestling. We're
No,
we're
we're not.
emphasizing that we're all too pansy to be.
We are not man enough nor tough enough, and I'm going to speak for all of us. And I think we're all good dudes, but we are not man enough to get on the mat.
No.
End of story. I will say, uncle now. And we kind of went into the shallow end of the pool with leaving games early, and it got there because nobody left early last night at the Devaney Center with Nebraska Wrestling. That thing was packed house. That was awesome to see, but it did kind of wade into the the Nebraska basketball folks exiting early. Thank you, Charles.
There's some good ones this morning already. You'll never
but-
catch me in a Speedo.
Yeah.
Like, was
Something-
teabagging Johnny. Like,
Yeah.
just some
There's the
all-time.
title.
Like,
There's
just
the
put those-
title.
Put those in your email signature. It's just it's perfect.
But Kraynak, Vogues, either of you guys, as a putting your fan hat on, leave early.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
A
definitely.
lot of it happened in 2017.
Well, sometimes you have to beat traffic.
No, I thought more back to like my early 20s, when you probably go to a lot of games. Like in my case, I was single, like, whatever. You go with your buddies and it's like you're at the game and it's enjoyable and you're having a good time. But at a certain point, if the game's not very good, it's kind of like you want to just go across the street and like go to the bar. Is that better than where we're at? I didn't leave this game earlier because I couldn't because I was working it. But the most unsufferable game that I've sat through is definitely 2016 Ohio State Nebraska 62-3. Both teams were top 10. And that was Nebraska's chance to kind of like, I think they were still like 17-point dogs, but it was like, well, you just lost in heartbreaking fashion to Wisconsin in overtime, your first loss of the season. At least go show something. And I think Ohio State had a pick six in the first 2 minutes of that game, just 31-3 at halftime. And then Ohio State scores 24 in the third quarter. That was one where I put my notebook away and I was like, well, I guess we're just stuck here until it's time to go get quotes about this massacre.
Yeah. How are those press conferences, by the way? The ones where it is a pure, like I guess just sort of like the vibe as the coach walks in, right?
Yeah, it feels a bit like a wake, like everyone knows what just happened and what brought us together here, these unfortunate circumstances. And that one was really rough because, like I said, I think that put Nebraska at what, 8-2. They were ranked number 9 going into that game, and 62-3. It wasn't like they got that field goal at the end of the game. No, they got it in the first quarter, and then that was it. It was just the rest was just watching. It was like watching Ohio State sled. It was just all downhill, and there was nothing anybody could do about it. We all just had to serve as witness.
Watching them sled.
What's weird is you go into that and you want to. I mean, you think of some of the head scratchers. 62-3 was. The head scratching part wasn't that Ohio State won or even covered. It was just, Nebraska was, all right, how are they going to respond here? Man, they lost a heartbreaker. They played their ass off against Wisconsin. Didn't go their way in overtime. Shocker. A couple of things maybe missed at the goal line. I think, poor old Jordan Westerkamp's still looking for a flag, and he should be at the goal line on 4th down. And didn't have to go that way. Now you fast forward, and then Tommy gets knocked out, ushered to the hospital across the street, and all hell broke loose. And hey, Coach Riley, what the hell happened? Can you explain it? My worst press conference ever was, and it wasn't. There's been a handful of them. One's the reporters gathered around, Disco Diaco describing the strain, and he's making eye contact with me and whoever's next to me. And I'm like, Jesus, I just want to go somewhere else. Because it's
so then hold on. So that it's on you to like acknowledge and like,
he's like, I mean, I'm just like, I can't, I mean, there's a pool of people around and I can't go anywhere. I mean, I can't. I didn't ask. I was just in the eyesight line of Diaco just going stand-up act. I was also next to Dirk when Bo wanted to rip his head off, sitting next to Dirk in 2011.
So you caught a lot of shrapnel in your days.
It's like we were duct taped to a time bomb together. Like I just sat here.
Well, at least Chris isn't feeling dramatic this morning. I mean, that's good.
Was anyone here in attendance for the press conference where Bo asked to be fired? Like, if they can fire me if they want?
I think Vogues and me and Babbers were sitting by each other for that one.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. In some ways, like, especially in the later years under Pelini, Nebraska had its share of big losses, and different than like 2016 Ohio State, which we were talking about, and that one wasn't all that shocking. Like you'd have the ones with Bo where it was because they were pretty good, and those you'd go in and to go back to wrestling, put your headgear on because there was going to be some combat here potentially. It was a different vibe than what we would come to see later.
I want to flip this, as we can wonder if, because the other part of that post Ohio State, it goes back to Elijah talking about, his dad wanting to leave that game early, and Elijah saying, no, dude, we're staying till the end. You saw Rex and the incredible comeback against the Buckeyes in 2011.
Let it be known, my family, we're not fair weather fans.
Yes. No. But you had a couple of dudes that came to cheer on Bo because it was Nebraska's second meeting against it was the first meeting against Ohio State in the Big Ten. Nebraska got Ohio State on that Saturday night, ABC for the world to see, and it was you had some dudes from Youngstown come back to support Bo. So not only did Bo want to murder Dirk, but then you had, I'm sure, some of Youngstown's finest probably looking for that little guy after the presser. But I want to flip it around to Bo and guys with Jack Hoffman this week passing away, and all the kind wishes and warm thoughts to the Hoffman family. And we all had a chance at one point in our career or another time to interact with Andy, who it was so sad he passed a few years back also, but his drive and Jack's drive and courage to fundraise, to get the word out and fight pediatric brain cancer, in Jack's run that won an ESPY and really was a showcase of just kind of the Nebraska spirit, and Jack absolutely embodied that his 19 years. But just the fact that Bo and Jamrog and Searles and Kenny Bell and Taylor Martinez and of course Rex, that group, that team that was part of that spring game in 2013 with Jack's run, and everyone's going to smile and remember that in a really tough moment, a tough week for a family. And I want to just acknowledge Polini for that, and just his heart for that. And I know, Brandon, some of your stories and coverage of that moment. I mean, I know it's 12 years ago, but we all kind of reflect on it this week with the news of Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, sad news for Husker Nation. I went back and reread what I wrote about that in 2013, and as usually happens, like with anything, much less something that had some weight beyond just the sports world to it. Like,
Yeah.
I'd do it a lot differently now, but one of the things that I wrote from that I still like was kind of that moment wasn't just like a sports moment. It was just a life affirming moment. And, at the time I was obviously younger. Now as a parent, when the news came this week, it really kind of made me, you just have a different frame of reference. And I can't imagine getting the diagnosis that family got, all the way back then, being a parent now, and like just knowing that these are the people you do anything for, but nothing you can do can like make the problem go away, really helped me kind of frame, I think, what they were able to do through Team Jack and the money raised to like help make a difference in this for other people. It's really remarkable. I mean, it's like stating the obvious, but that was kind of my thought process as we all worked through it this week. My colleague Erin Sorensen at Counter Read wrote a great newsletter about it yesterday. She knew that family really well, and there's some moments in there that really get you, and you just wish the best for his family.
Yeah, it's a tough one, especially after what happened with his dad too, right? With Andy, it's like you just wonder why some folks get that sentence in life, right? Why did that happen to Andy? Why did that happen to Jack? Especially the way Jack was able to rally and kind of inspire other programs to figure out their moment and to do similar things. Nothing quite like it. You didn't see necessarily a copy paste,
right.
But even if you did, that's fine.
Sure.
Right. I think, it's somewhat of a cynical world where it's like, get your own. No, every program should do that. Find that equivalent, right, to be able to keep it going. And the fact that Team Jack is still a viable nonprofit that's raising money is incredible. And it's been the kind of Husker Illuminati that's kept it going. And that was really sad to read. That was really sad to see this week.
That's Mark Kraynak, Elijah Herbel, Chris Schmidt, Brandon Vogel, Weekend Edition, Hail Varsity Radio. Just wanted to spend a few minutes on Jack and the Hoffman family, and send love, of course. And I want to keep with the spring theme, and transition away a little bit. Do you guys think we're going to see kind of a new world with spring football? And I ask that because you've got the proposal out to just have one portal window in January, right? But right now, it's still going to be the Wild West in the sense that you have one more hurdle this season, well, to either add or subtract roster numbers and finally get your team set for kickoff in August. All that being said, I mean, we know based on the NFL model, you bring in 100, you eventually get down to 194, 92, and then you have your final cut down to the 53-man roster. Do you push things back, Vogues, if you're Nebraska, with just your spring window? If you're Nebraska or if you're other programs, do you kind of push it back to give yourself more time from an evaluation / addition standpoint? Because you're going to have one more run in April of additions and subtractions in the portal, and then you've got to kind of whittle down and put your best roster forward.
Yeah, I would be surprised if Nebraska pushed it back solely for that, though I wouldn't be surprised if some other programs do. Nebraska has the benefit, but it also, comes with a cost in some cases of the spring game is something people want to attend. Like, it's not, an afterthought. There are some programs out there that can just hold spring football, whenever, and there may not be as much interest in that. But in Nebraska, it's an event, so I think that limits them a little bit schedule wise. It'll be an interesting spring, tone wise, to see how much the players and coaches talk about the competition angle of it, because it really is going to be a pretty big tryout for a lot of people, because not only does Nebraska, from a coaching perspective, have to get work done during those practices, they've also got to come out of that with a pretty good idea of okay, here's our 105. We know some of these players may be departing. They need players to depart. However, that's going to be handled. So I think overall, and when we to fold into playoff a little bit, reading some of the committee quotes this week, since the entire college football world's in Atlanta, I think it's really going to be this 2025 season is going to feel pretty chaotic. Maybe the portal window gets moved right away. The sense from the committee members, the playoff bigwigs, is that it's going to be 2026 before they make massive change, not massive, but make some changes probably to the playoff. And I just think that's the next break in this, where the sport collectively can catch its breath and we can see what it's going to be going forward. So for now, good luck to all the college coaches out there. I know it's not fun.
One of the things that I look at with spring football is you look across the national landscape of college football, portal windows still open. I wonder if you're going to start moving to more and more closed spring games, where it's your donors of substance can come in and watch. We're not going to put this on TV. It's with tampering and all of that, you look at imagine you got this big name freshman that comes in. You think he was underrated. He's a 3-star, comes in and has a big spring. You know what? He's probably going to ride the bench for a year while he develops a little bit more. But some other school across the country says that's a position of need for us. Look how that guy just performed in, say, the Nebraska spring game. We're going to go get that guy. It's an interesting window while it's the wild, wild west of man, what is spring football going to look like? It's really interesting. I mean, another factor is you talk about Schmidt going to the NFL model. Whenever you're making roster cutdowns, is there an opponent on your schedule going to see you go into the portal and say, you know what, let's get some information preseason. Let's go get this guy in. We think he's a solid player, but he's going to have some good information on one of our 2025 opponents. Let's go get him and see what information he has. That's why Danny Woodhead went to the Patriots in the first place, if you remember. Bill Belichick was about to play the Jets, saw that they cut Danny Woodhead and goes, let's get some information on the Jets. We like this guy. he's going to have some inside knowledge. Let's go pick up Danny Woodhead. And Danny Woodhead comes in, spills all his secrets, impresses Bill Belichick, and earns himself a roster spot. So you look at that, it's like, it's very, very interesting of what the future of college football could look like with just how quickly movement can happen post-spring, before fall camp, during fall camp. It's just like, man, things are going to get really, really weird moving forward.
Kraynak, you've got a paranoid bunch anyway in the world of college football coaches with the in the aftermath of the alleged Harbaugh stuff. Now you fast forward to poaching run rampant, and I don't think you're wrong, Elijah, with I'm going to close my spring practices. Sorry, it's for the best interest of the program, and those folks that we do got to cut down, we don't need them wearing a headset or telling them what our audible is on 3rd and 8.
It's a mess. And then besides that, you had the guidance from I believe the Supreme Court about the payments, the $20.5 million of, some programs had already come out and said, okay, here's how we're going to allocate that $20.5 million, and it's all going to football and men's basketball, and then a little bit to, women's basketball and baseball, but then everybody else gets like $5 or something, right? That's more or less what they came out with. And the Supreme Court has decided, well, no, that violates Title IX, which, of course, like as soon as that came out, you're just like, how is that fair and equitable? Is Title IX, are they deleting that? I don't think they, so it's going to be like this, I think, definitely through 2025, probably through 26. What I don't know, what everybody seemingly agrees on is that you need some sort of czar or governing body of some sort. Who the hell is that going to be? Who is going to agree to all of it?
I like Joel Klatt and Nick Saban. I think that's a hell of a tag team partner.
Yeah. Okay.
I think Trev would be okay with it too. And I know that Trev's a dirty word to many, but Trev knows his stuff. I mean, I think he's been in both conferences. If you get to a czar position, I know Saban's in his 70s.
Whose side are you on, Chris? Right? He's a turncoat. He left. You can't vouch for Trev the way he left Nebraska. I don't think.
I can vouch for Trev when it comes to the oversight of college football.
He's going to stick it to Nebraska every chance he gets.
I don't think so.
Don't let him do it.
I don't believe. Compared to who? Compared to the Big Ten?
Good point. They should probably just make it Texas. Texas should probably just be the czar.
That's funny.
Right. Oh, Department of Education. Sorry about that. It'll be rescinded shortly after Monday. Somebody wanted attention before being shown the door.
That's from Brian Snitley there.
Yeah,
so
part of the Boulder Peace Treaty. Yeah.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
So that's not going to happen, according to Brian?
I don't know. I don't think it can stand up in court, personally. I'm no law expert here. I even go talk to my friends that are in law school, but I can that stand up? As you talk about, Mark, with Title IX, it just doesn't feel like it can work.
Yeah, I don't know. But that's where we're at, right? That's the thing, is that it's like all of a sudden, I mean, it is such a 0 to 60 in terms of, I mean, it's like plate tectonics is how fast some of the stuff normally moves. But all of a sudden, all the rules have changed, relatively speaking, overnight. And it's just absolute mess.
And David brings up another interesting one here with I can't remember the guy's name, the guy who didn't even go into the portal. He just up and left Wisconsin, goes to Miami, never once entered the portal. That's kind of what I was referring to when you talk about guys that, you're going to go pick up a guy and go see what information you can get on an opponent, because you can just up and leave, not even enter your name in the transfer portal.
Well, yeah, here's the story. You've got a lawyer, Xavier Lucas. He's in there's an ex-Wisconsin player. That's Lucas. You had the school refuse to put his name in the portal, and you had Lucas indicated on social media last month that Wisconsin was refusing to put his name in the portal and that it was hindering his ability to talk to other schools. So Lucas announced earlier in December that he planned to enter the portal. The NCAA issued a statement yesterday saying that the NCAA rules do not prevent a student athlete from unenrolling from an institution, enrolling at a new institution, and competing immediately. So Wisconsin officials haven't really responded. It is free reign for the athlete right now, but there's very little roadblocks a school can put up now, Vogues.
Yeah, there are, and I mean, I'm a little bit skeptical of that version of events because, like, if you're Wisconsin, I think they're better at this than just being like, no, we're not going to put your name in the portal. Like,
there's got to be more.
You break up. You're breaking up with me, but I just refuse to acknowledge it. Thus, it is not a breakup. It's like, no, there's nothing you can do at that point.
It's over, bro. Let him go.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with that. You know, as Elijah was talking through the portal window thing, like Ja'Cory Barty would have been that guy, and it would have involved a school we're talking about right now. Like Ja'Cory Barty would have been that guy for Nebraska last year. Like, you would have had to be like pretty out in front of it, but like, all the buzz about him was like, he's going to play. This guy's good. And then he comes out and has a pretty impressive spring game. Like, what if Miami had said, hey, what are you getting? We'll double that. Like, he almost went to Miami the first time, and Miami is a program that will do that. Like, that's the sort of thing that is still possible. And I mean, I think what we're seeing big picture wise is like, you could maybe still shoehorn basketball into the traditional college model, but I just don't think football is going to fit. Like, and I don't know what that means and how any of that happens, but there's just so many things where you are talking about the Department of Education and the Supreme Court and lawyers all the time and legal challenges. Like, I just don't know if I don't think you get the toothpaste back into the tube.
Well, and Snitley makes a point here on the stream, and school needs to have some recourse. If they already shelled out money, I mean, if it's a 2-year NIL deal or a rev share deal, then sorry, partner, you're not taking the money and going to a warmer climate. That is called theft.
Nowhere in the contract did it say what team I have to be doing this for. So he's like still stumping for Wisconsin products while chilling in Miami. That'd be good. That would be good.
So we're kind of just talking about the impending doom of college football here. Am I wrong? It just kind of feels like everything we've discussed here in the past half hour is like doom and gloom. Can we finish this? I know Gary Sharp's standing by in the green room waiting. Can we finish this and just, Brandon, the impact of Deshaun Singleton coming back for another year? I want to get your thoughts on that. We haven't really talked about that on the show very much. You have your rangy safety. I think he showed a little bit more last year 2 years ago. They did last year before the injury. Didn't always play at his best this past season, but again, gets another go around. I want to get your thoughts on that before we get you out.
Yeah, pretty big. I mean, and a guy who I think is playing to his future prospects as well. So you can feel pretty good about that. And then just the experience. And I think the big thing, the first thing I thought of when I saw the news was it gives Nebraska a little bit of flexibility because he stays healthy. He's played enough football. You can put him there in the secondary. And, we saw it in the Pinstripe Bowl. I think Nebraska, Butler is more of a zone coverage kind of guy. So Nebraska had to play that a lot because I don't think after Tommy Hill went down, Nebraska felt all that great about its ability to play a ton of man coverage. That's largely on the cornerbacks. So we saw them move guys like Hartzog and Butler around a little bit, or Buford around a little bit. This gives them the chance to, I think, let's find our best corners because one safety spot we feel pretty good about, all because Deshaun Singleton was able to come back. So it's a valuable retention or waiver granting, I guess, by the NCAA in this case.
Vogues, what are you doing with Counter Read? How can folks sign up? Tell me how to subscribe, man.
Yeah, you can just head to counterread.com, and that'll get you there. It'll usually prompt you if you're not a frequent visitor, but if you are, all of our free stories include a link to subscribe, of course. So make it pretty easy, but hopefully not too annoying. There's no pop-ups or anything. So there's that. So for Monday, working on tying up some loose threads from stuff I had in the season. I come up with a lot of football ideas during the season that are usually in progress from a numbers perspective. One of which was looking at Matt Rule's 2-year trajectory versus every power conference coaching hire since 2007. His numbers changed a little bit from what I wrote about him the first time. So wanted to revisit that and at least tie that up and have some kind of big picture things as we turn the page to 2025 football.
Love it. Bogues, good chat today. Thanks for jumping on. And we went from wrestling to spring games to the courtroom. I mean, all over, man.
Must be January.
Yeah. This must be January. Appreciate it. All right. Good stuff from Bogues. Thanks. There he is. Brandon Vogel with us. And part of the stocking cap crew, it is Gary Sharp.
Whoa. Yeah, good to see you're supporting your Sacramento A's there, Mark. Happy Fred Hoiberg Day.
Did you get your air freshener?
I did not. I was a little bit late getting to the game on Thursday, and they were gone. I mean, I bet people were lined up for days. They got hypothermia just to get an air freshener and watch 2 NBA guys.
Yeah. Well, you went last night to the Bob, didn't you, to see wrestling?
Yes, I am addicted to 8 p.m. start times for Nebraska athletics.
Yeah,
it was great. It was a great atmosphere. It's just, I think Cale Sanderson, the head coach at Penn State, has to be talked about as one of the best college coaches, regardless of sport. They're a friggin' wagon. Man, Penn State wrestling has won, what have they won? 6 of the last 7 national titles or 7 of the last 8. They haven't lost a duel since 2020. And they're getting better. And Nebraska, Mark's got a really good program and it's got a good team, but yes, there's just a gap. I mean, Penn State's number 1, Nebraska's number 6, and last night at the lower weight classes, Nebraska just got dominated. Now, Nebraska's pretty good up front. Like Ridge Lovett beat the number 2 guy in the country, Kyle Van Ness, last night. I didn't think Van Ness would ever lose again this season. Ridge dominated him, but Penn State is Penn State. So it was fun. They had a little over 6,000 in there, but I will tell you this is where we're either spoiled or we're geared to think one way. It's always odd to me to go into the Devaney Center and there are empty seats because I'm so used to volleyball where every seat is packed and there are people, way up or standing in the standing room only.
But from a
I am not a former SEC tight end. Sorry.
Way to designate that the appropriate league.
Hey, by the way, he's in the portal.
Shocker.
Oh, how's that going?
I don't know. How is Nebraska doing in the portal?
That's 16 guys, right?
Yeah, I'm just making a transition. So let's just do this because you were just talking with Brandon about Singleton coming back, and he had been leaning that way for a while, which defensive back competition in the spring is going to be fascinating. I love that they have a ton of guys because not everybody's going to last. Some guys that thought, oh, okay, now the seniors have moved on, I got a shot, or all of a sudden like, whoa, I got competition. Could you let's talk about guys that could have left that stayed. Can we add them to the portal discussion on how Nebraska improved their roster? And if we do, which guy that Nebraska kept and didn't let go into the portal and made or had a decision to go in the portal or had a decision to use their last year of eligibility came back, would Johnson, Davis, Singleton be in your top 3 of additions this offseason?
I think Keona is so big just because, he's been talked up, but I like this sounds cliched, but I love his motor. I like his ability, but he's a guy that plays hard when he's in. You're supposed to, but you don't always get that from linemen. So I think he's big because of the upside. I think Buddha coming back is pretty nice. I know we like the linebacker room anyway, but to have an old vet there is pretty key. And then Singleton, before Michigan chopped him, he was playing a really good ball, right? And then he had to come back from injury. And I think it takes a guy about a year from an injury that serious to really feel like his old self. So I'm glad to see him get another year.
Yeah.
And I think he could be a big-time leader because I think he's a heck of a football player. So I think Singleton's right up there. But I think Keown is still my number one because I think he can really – you want him to be dominant. You want him to slide in and be a leader even as young as he is.
Yeah, by the way, you look at – and I agree with you on Keona, and we might have talked about this. If you ever see Keona Davis like side by side with Ty Robinson, it makes you appreciate that Ty Robinson built himself into a Big Ten looking defensive lineman.
Yeah.
I mean, Keona have a big offseason in terms of adding good weight.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing with Singleton coming back, and this was I think this is not a shock to Nebraska. I think Nebraska had kind of thought this way. Is does Singleton go and play Rover?
I'd like to see it
because I'm wondering what John.
capable.
But you look at we had this discussion last week about the size of cornerbacks in Nebraska's recruiting. Does Singleton seem like a John Butler Rover?
I think he could.
If you're looking at size, and he's a guy that can pretty good in run coverage when he's on. I mean, he had,
and that's where Gifford played.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So his responsibilities would kind of change how, right? Compared to
more of a run stopper. Fair.
More of a run stopper. Yep. Which when he was healthy, if you go back to the year Schmidt was referencing before that bad injury against Michigan, he'd like to go up and play the run.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he was smart playing the run. Last year he wasn't very good at the beginning. He got better as the season went along. I don't think he's back to the point of where Rule said before he made his debut at Nebraska that guy is an NFL guy. I haven't seen that consistently, but I wonder
throws that around a little bit too.
Yeah, and but I don't think it's his motivation. I think it's when an NFL guy says that, I think he's being serious. I think Deshaun's injury he was starting to play well, and that injury hurt, and he's maybe now a full year and a half back from the injury, you'll see a different person, but maybe they put him in a better spot to play.
What does that mean I look at McCullough coming in from Oklahoma, and that kind of feels like a rover to me. Where does he slot in the defense, in your opinion? I mean, there's nothing wrong with having options.
Wherever he wants.
Yeah, that's why, guys, I think I love what they're doing with competition. There's going to be competition at 105 when you have 105, but if you look at the defensive side of the ball, especially the defensive backfield, man, there's nobody that you go, oh, okay, it's their turn to shine now. They're going to play, because I would think you have your two cornerbacks, right? Marshall and Wright. Mm-hmm. And then don't forget about Bly Hill. I mean, I think there's going to be guys that maybe just got here that go through spring and maybe even in the summer and go, man, I came here to play, and maybe I'm not going to play. Or Nebraska looks at it this way. They want to create competition. They're going to carry a load of defensive backs, and guys we're adding in that defensive back room are at least 2-year guys. So they can learn the ropes, get into the competition. If they don't necessarily start, the clock's not ticking, and we still got another year out of them.
That's how you got to approach it.
Yeah, and all of this, guys, with new eyes, a position coach that really doesn't know any of you.
Fine with me. I mean, I think they're set up to take advantage of this NFL model because they've all lived it. I mean, Rule spent time in the league. Butler's been in the league for a long time. They're bringing in NFL guys at position coaches in some instances. So fine with me. Use it to your advantage and put the best 53 out there and give me another 53 taxi squad that gets you ready for Saturday.
Gary,
all while retaining who you want to slide in.
Building a developmental program at the same time.
Well, I think, one quick thing here before Elijah. I think we'll look at coaches in this new day and age, coaches' tenures. When you say, hey, this coach has won this, and this, we might also have to start to look at coaches that are good at retaining their guys. Yeah. I mean, that's whole part of it. Like I'm really fascinated by Illinois in 2025 because they return a lot of talent. They return, I think, 18 starters. They got a fairly good schedule, but Bielema was able to retain some guys that either could have gone to the NFL or could have gone elsewhere. And all of a sudden, that Illinois-Indiana matchup in week 4 looks like it's a monstrous game. And Illinois is coming off a season where they won 10 games and they return 18 of their 22 guys, including their quarterback. So I think the ability for coaches to retain players that they know are key ingredients in the following season, I think is also something we need to talk about when we talk about coaches in this new era.
Yeah, and we talked about dark horse teams potentially in the Big Ten next season. And Illinois is on the list. I don't think Illinois is a dark horse with the amount of guys they return. I think I don't want to say they're a shoo-in for the playoff, not by any means, but they're a team that you expect to be up there. I mean, any Bielema team that returns 4 of the 5 starting offensive linemen, I think it was 9 of your 11 guys defensively. Like, that's a team you got to watch out for. So I don't think Illinois is a dark horse at all.
The thing with them is, Pig Farmer is going to have a couple killer tight ends that'll wear you out. He's got a quarterback that's coming back. They just beat arguably one of the hottest teams in college football, South Carolina, in the bowl game. And he won 10 games. And he won close games this year. I mean, there's a couple of shootouts he had that how's Illinois having to fight for their life against Purdue, but they won it. They won in Lincoln. And Illinois is one of those spots that he is at home, and he's going to be able to recruit and keep that Chicago. I mean, not necessarily Chicago, but Illinois, Iowa. I mean, he'll do work there, and I don't know that they're a one-hit wonder. I think they're going to. I don't know where they are consistently within the top 8 of the Big Ten. But, I mean, you could make a real strong argument for them being number 4, number 5. I mean, and Minnesota had a good year, too, this year as well, because Illinois was better than SC this year.
Yeah, the one thing with Bielema is go around at Wisconsin, and now as he's kind of got his feet on the ground at Illinois, is and I think this is a big thing for Rule and his staff, which is, again, kind of turned over. Not with a lot of Big Ten experience, or at least familiarity with how you win in the Big Ten, is Bielema knows how to win in this conference. He doesn't overthink things, and he's a good football coach. That's the thing about this league. Like we have fun with Bert. Okay, his size, his personality, but the man just wins football games. It's kind of like PJ Fleck. There's the PJ Fleck brand, and then there's the PJ Fleck football, and they just win football games. And it's just, you have to, once you get the sauce, you got to keep adding to it. And I think what they're doing at Illinois, I mean, I'm prepared to go into the offseason. And when we get closer to the start of the season and polls start come out, that Illinois and Indiana are top 25 teams. I mean, that's kind of the new world. But they're, it's probably a good thing they're not on Nebraska's schedule this year because he, the one time, the year 1, when Rule went into Champaign on that Friday night, I said Nebraska beat Illinois by out-Illinoising them.
Yes.
Now this past year, the way Illinois scored and in that game, they might have out-Nebraska, the new Nebraska, chucking the ball around and, some of the mismatches that they created and things. But I don't know.
Illinois is interesting.
It's Champaign.
They beat Michigan by 2 touchdowns. They lost 21-7 at Penn State, but they've beaten Penn State. They got drilled by Oregon. They've been toe-to-toe with Michigan 2 of the last 3 years. Michigan's first playoff team. They needed a call. Michigan did to survive in Ann Arbor. So they're really, in my eyes, trailing Ohio State and Oregon in the league. If we just talk about, their matchups with them, because they lost to Minnesota this year by a field goal or a couple of points. But yeah, there's no weeks off, brother. there isn't in football, but there's not in basketball either.
Yeah.
No, Maryland will probably show up tomorrow, unfortunately.
Yeah. Can we transition into that real quick?
Are we done with football? We forget about football.
Well,
we don't talk about it enough.
Hey, we're going to get excited. Hey, they're going to start.
The
they're coming back. School starts again on Tuesday. They're going to start showing pictures of the newcomers that are here. We're watching the Polynesian Bowl.
Moving into the dorms. Yep. 19-year-old shows up to Lincoln for 6 months before he transfers away. It's going to be great. I mean, that's
Spring
the headline.
football would be here before you know it.
Yeah.
Well, as
Sharpie,
we-
what do you think the new normal will be for spring football?
I think across the country, spring football will be less and less.
Yeah.
Because of your numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
You
and
know?
also not to mention the fact that bringing a newcomer has a good spring game. That's how Brandon kind of closed our interview. What's
Yeah.
stopping somebody else from coming in and saying, "Man, that guy looked pretty good. We could use him."
Son,
next year."
we think you can play here.
Yeah, like I don't know. Look at this, guys. What if somebody has a good spring game? It's on television, and they're maybe the second or third at that position, and tampering goes on.
Adios.
Knock, knock, knock. Hey, we got a spot open that just opened up. I think we're gonna have to. I think Nebraska's staff and roster won't be settled for a while.
Well,
Now, one could happen. One could happen earlier than the other, but I'm saying as a whole, everybody's fascinated with the 105. They don't have to be down to 105 until game one. Now, I imagine they like to be at 105 when camp opens up. But
And has it firmly been decided that you can't carry an extra practice squad situation beyond the 105?
I believe so. I think the NCAA has so many other things on their plate that will not move to the top. But
So it's it's 105 players, period, in your program.
To me, I think it's probably a 115 by the time fall camp starts, because you have to have some insurance policies in place in case injuries happen during fall camp, because injuries always happen during fall camp. But then, that'd
be ruthless.
It's what you got to do. It's a ruthless world of college football. When you get to fall camp,
you need your practice squad, Elijah. I agree with you.
You get 10 guys injured during fall camp, and you go in with 105. Now you're at 95, and you're behind the 8 ball for the season.
Yeah, there are no walk-ons anymore. If you're in the 105, you're on a scholarship. I think one thing it'll do is, will everybody have 105 across the country? Even in this day of having 85 scholarships, there's quite a few programs that never get to 85. Like LSU. LSU told the story, Orgeron in 2019 or before that. It might even been Miles. There was one year LSU only had 69 scholarship guys.
Yeah.
So, 105 is 105. Everybody's on a scholarship. And will everybody go 105? I think you have to. As Elijah was pointing out, you got to have some insurance if some guys go down. But man, just look at Notre Dame and Ohio State as they've made their way through their schedule in the playoff. You got to have some depth. You got to build up your depth that they're ready to go, so that one major injury doesn't derail you. And it's going to be even more important in 105 that coaches develop, and guys are ready to play, because it's not like, you can't have a waiver wire. You can't have injured reserve and bring a guy up from the minors. I mean, you have quarterback go down at 105 and you were only carrying 3 quarterbacks. Now you're down to 2 quarterbacks, and your third guy is an emergency guy who has been playing tight end all season long. So the management of the roster, who gets to stay and who gets to go, is interesting. But also the numbers you're going to keep at every respective position, thinking about you might play a 16-game season. And even if you make it to the playoffs, they're not going to adjust your 105. And you're going to lose some guys during the season due to injury. So on-field coaching and that person sitting in the GM's chair are going to have to be on point in this new age of college football. But I think 105 sucks. I think it's too much of a cut down. I think it should have gone 120, maybe 115, 105, or 105 and 10 walk-ons. But it's the NCAA, and there's no guardrails. And hell, a guy could show up to go to class in Lincoln on Tuesday and go, you know what? I don't want to be here. I'm just going to go to Miami, because there's no guardrails on the portal. Because the NCAA basically yesterday said the portal doesn't exist.
Yep.
What the hell? What in the friggin' hell?
That's what I'm saying.
Football is ready to break. The clock is ticking. I know my TikTok app, which I'm in love with. They're going to take it away from me, so I won't be able to, every morning and get up and look at my TikTok. Yeah. So they're gonna take away my TikTok. People are very, very upset.
But I wanted to get to that too, because you had mentioned how you love it. And the people that have TikTok, seemingly, everyone I've talked to, they all love it. They're all just like, it's the best. It curates everything. It's perfect. It's not as toxic as other social media, and it serves me up everything I want to see. And they spend hours. It's their news source. It's their entertainment source. It's everything. There are going to be some really grumpy, pissed off people on Monday when when their addiction is suddenly they're just cold turkey. I don't
Hey,
know. How are you gonna manage?
I got the app, so we just won't get updates. We're gonna fight this. See, I think in the middle of the inauguration that President Trump will announce that TikTok is staying, and then we can move on with the country and we get back to talking about Notre Dame, Ohio State.
You think that's a conspiracy? It's like this is all set up so that Trump can save something. And
I don't think it's a conspiracy. I think he's like, son, we're gonna make some. You want your app to stick around? Here's what it's gonna cost you a year.
Hey, I don't make TikToks, but I enjoy other people's TikToks. There are a lot of people that make money off of TikTok, because they're content creators. Yeah. But the other thing that is done, it has created awareness for like shows that you might not watch, but on TikTok they give you like 90-second clip, and so you're like, oh, okay. So especially Tulsa King and Landman, like Landman, people started watching in the beginning, but it was all over TikTok, and then people are like, oh wow, I got to watch this. And Landman is a great show. Yeah.
No, it's there. The promotional part of it's very, very real.
But if the NCAA was handling TikTok would be, you could do whatever.
Right. At any time. Just hand over your data to China. It's, my God.
So there's a 40-minute limit for minors in China on TikTok, and TikTok in China is primarily educational. It's not anything close to what resembles the American TikTok.
Okay.
Did not know that. Have you been to China? Did you see this?
No, but I've researched the TikTok topic for the morning show. And
yeah,
it's way different.
Hey, okay, I'll give you a quick thing here. Is look at student athletes. Emmett Johnson is a big TikToker.
Yep.
The Nebraska volleyball program lives on TikTok.
Yeah.
And they are great content creators, and you feel like you know them even more because they will show you a lot of the behind the scenes. They basically show you their whole life. Like Harper Murray has, like, TikTok, I think has been good for her. Some mostly good. There have been the bad moments, but like you get to know all of these athletes on TikTok. They take you behind the scenes. Like it's kind of, I don't know, I'm not a creep or anything, but it's kind of interesting to see that, an hour and a half before a big match for Nebraska volleyball, they're out making TikToks, and 2 hours later they crush some team in the Big Ten. But the Nebraska volleyball program is huge on TikTok. Remember, they got John Cook on TikTok, and we went crazy.
See, we know you, Gary. We know you're not a creeper, right? But to someone that just dropped in, and if they heard, I'm not a creeper, as you're wearing your black hat and hoodie, they'd be like, well, I don't know. Gary looks like he's about to. Somebody else said you looked like you were going to rob something.
Oh, he looks like the kind of guy you see in your backyard at your window at 1 a.m, all black.
Hey, wow! I'd be doing that because I'm smart, because I don't want to get caught on the Ring door camera.
Well, see,
in the backyard, yeah.
He's going to stealthily grab your Amazon packages off your front porch. And Sharpie, I'm going to give you my address so you can start here, because there's only 17 packages a day that shows up.
Wow, I think that was a little shot at someone else in your house, but that's okay.
Yeah,
that's okay.
You got a freaking Valentine's Day tree while I'm complaining. So,
whoa, It is the 18th of January. Why do we have the Christmas tree still up?
It's not. It's a Valentine's Day tree.
That ain't a Valentine's Day tree. That looks exactly like your Christmas tree.
That's what I told her. I got smacked.
What color is it? Is
it's
it
red and white.
It's
red and white and silver.
Huh. And its own standalone tree. It's not like just something you can program to change colors as the season.
Oh, that would make too much sense. We need to go buy new crap.
We have an Easter tree, a Memorial Day tree, a July 4th
St. Patrick's Day. We have a freaking Halloween tree in the basement.
What? Yeah. Anyway, Husker basketball.
He said, "Yeah,
all right, Elijah.
Husker basketball.
Thank you, Elijah. Thank you."
Yeah. So, Nebraska's defense is managing to give up like the Nebraska football roster size limit every time out, it seems like. I mean, why are they giving up 90, 100, 80? What the hell happened to their defense? This was a defense that was top 10 in the country.
Playing
and had like
teams.
held okay, sure, agree, but that's a pretty significant switch. yes, it's better teams, but to go from holding teams to like 50 or less to giving up 90 and giving up 16, 17 threes a game.
They got out of the mode of playing
games in a row.
They got out of the mode of playing gritty or stylistically. They need to be a squad that grounds you into their style, kind of drags you into the mud, and it needs to be around 70 points a game. When you get into a running match or Showtime, like let's tribute the Showtime Lakers, that style of tempo, while it's fun to play, defense is optional, and they have not locked in defensively. Sharpie, I mean, Fred, I think strategically, I mean, you go one way or the other with him talking about toughness after the loss to Rutgers. So they either respond after being called out or you don't, and you keep getting bludgeoned. That's pretty much what tomorrow is.
Yeah, I know. Yesterday on the Average Joe Sports Show podcast, you'll love it, Mark.
We can't wait.
So Maryland is not as much of a 5-out type offense like Iowa, Purdue, and Rutgers were. But it does come down to, Nebraska picks their poison. Are they going to double in the post? Are they going to run guy? If they're going to pack it in and just in a make or miss sport, hope that teams don't miss, or are they going to have a plan B when it comes to defense? I don't know. I think tomorrow is about effort. I think it's a good start on the road for another 11 a.m. local time start against a Big Ten team that's 11-1 at home and has Derek Queen, who is a big time player. You have to, there's a lot of the season to go, but it feels like with the schedule in this conference and what is ahead, that someone's got to pull the parking brake sooner than later. And that's making shots, making stops, making winning plays at the end. But 95.3 points allowed in the last 3 games ain't going to get it done. I mean, we're all watching threes go in like it's Papa Shot at Dave and Buster's. Have you ever been to
or the
Dave
Big
and
8
Buster's?
tournament? The Big 8
Yes.
tournament in Kemper, Papa Shot was classic.
Seriously though, it has been such a dramatic switch, and it's not like it's an injury that caused it or something. Like it's seemingly out of nowhere, right? It just there were not signs of this happening. There were not signs of this.
No,
whereas I feel like the things that like ailed Nebraska football, it'd be like, hey, there were signs of this, right? This team wasn't doing this, and it finally caught up with them. In this case, you're just like, no, they were shutting down everybody they played significantly.
Yeah,
and now they're one of the worst. It's not like a gradual decline.
So one thing here that is a little startling. So when Nebraska played St. Mary's up in Sioux Falls, Randy Bennett was asked after the game, the head coach of St. Mary's, about Nebraska's defense. And he said, we know they're going to double, they're going to trap you along the baseline. They're going to pack the post. But if we have skip passes and make that one extra pass, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, he said they're tardy on rotations and we can get open looks. Well, look at the last 3 games, what's happened. Iowa, and Iowa turned the corner after they were down 15. They started to hit shots. Now that's a big part of it. It wasn't something like all of a sudden Nebraska had a major breakdown. And then Purdue hit shots. Purdue ran pick and roll. The last 2 games, the pick and roll has really bothered Nebraska. I mean, Harper lived in the pick and roll on Thursday night. So it's the way Nebraska plays defense is they got to have communication. They got to have effort. They got to have communication, and they haven't. So those skip passes have been effective. Look at Purdue. Purdue just moved the ball quickly along the perimeter, and Nebraska's rotations were so off, and guys were open or there were mismatches. So I think the basketball IQ is not as great as it was on last year's team, but Nebraska just the stark reality is Nebraska's got to hit the free throws on the other end. They got to make shots at the rim. They got to find a guy wearing number 3. They got to find another scorer because they don't have as many shooters on the floor. And then they got to play extremely hard. So the margin of error is a little bit small with Nebraska, but they do have a formula that they can win a good majority or the right number of games in the conference to get in the NCAA tournament.
Are the rotations slow because of athletic ability or because of effort or like you were mentioning IQ?
Just the athleticism a little bit.
Yeah. There's not a ton of it.
And they don't have a ton of length. That's another part of it.
But they're big at the same time.
Yeah, but there's sometimes they're big and prodding.
Who
not
do they?
not
who do
big
they?
and long where your arms go below your knees, so you're in the passing lane and you're and you're an issue.
Wingspan problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
So does Nebraska have a dude to pull them out of this? They got a parking brake puller.
If if that's real, what we saw on Thursday, maybe, because that gives you a consistent outside threat. I don't know. I wonder if Fred will tinker with the starting lineup, or if it even matters. It's more the last 5 minutes of the game lineup.
Do you want
what
more
he goes with.
Do you want more Morgan on the floor?
I would rather have a Morgan than a Mia.
Same.
You know, I mean, if you want to start Mia, that's great. Let him get his name announced. They play the video. He can wave to mom and dad in the stands, and then play 6 minutes and sit. If you want to do that, you know.
So you're a big Mia fan. You are.
Well,
like.
I think so. I was a big fan of who he replaced. See, I'm William Kyle III, who's at UCLA, who was at South Dakota State, Bellevue West. I think it was perfect for Nebraska, and Nebraska went all in on him. And I thought he was going to come to Nebraska, and then he goes out to UCLA. They show him some, financials, and they show him trophies, and that's where he's at. So
and now he's being told he sucks by his coach, along with the whole team.
And then they have Mia. They have some empty calories on this roster right now, like Ulis and Mia, and Gavin Griffiths. He's in the witness protection program. He might be hiding out under the 9th Street Viaduct. Who knows? But you remember, he was supposed to be part of the rotation. We thought at the beginning of the year, but his minutes have decreased.
What's
greatly.
up? Just not performing? Is he dinged?
I don't know if he's in the doghouse or, I don't know what the situation is there. I thought that maybe, you're playing your former team on Thursday night. They might find some minutes for him, but they have some empty calories, and Bear K, I think they have to make a decision on where he is more comfortable on the offensive end of the floor. Does he have it in his head that he wants to be a 3-point shooter, or does he have it in his head that he wants to back the fellow post down with crab dribble, and a little baby hook? They just have a kind of, outside of Williams and Gary and Wooster, they have, like an odd roster of trying to still fit things together. And while they're trying that, they have won some games. They haven't had that bad loss in terms of the metrics in the NCAA tournament until this 3-game stretch, where one was really bad Thursday night. Iowa's going to look bad.
Yeah. Well, and we don't know on the remnants of Rutgers. I mean, you lose at home isn't good. You lose at home to a 10-8 team. Now we know Rutgers, when they're healthy, is a different squad. Do they make noise or do they fade back? I don't know what they become.
And I know we talked about this yesterday. I'm not a huge fan of Rutgers outside of their 2 NBA dudes. And they've really struggled this year with defense and finding supporting cast. But it does, like, from Nebraska's perspective, and we're in the middle of it, and they've lost 3 in a row, and they still have a lot of games to play, is look at UCLA. UCLA was left for dead. UCLA got beat by Rutgers the other night. UCLA just hammered Iowa. They put up 90 plus on them. So it's every night in the Big Ten is different. At least Nebraska, you can probably have a 3 or 4 game losing streak, and there's still enough opportunities inside your conference to make up for it. But you're looking at Wisconsin, you're looking at Illinois that are on the horizon. I mean, you have to win the games that are winnable. And Iowa City and Lincoln Thursday night were 2 of those in the last 3. Mark didn't like our conversation.
Sharpie, what do you got rocking, dude? No,
there's a football game. There's about 3 hours south of Omaha. There's going to be a lot of people on Interstate 29. There's a team that's playing at Arrowhead Stadium, not Nebraska or Cincinnati, that are playing a little football game today. They've invited 80,000 people to come watch. Big Boy is going to perform at halftime. I believe that national television is going to carry it. They're bringing a team up that is not used to playing in cold weather. I think it's Kansas City and Houston.
You going?
I think that's yes.
Nice.
Should Husker fans be rooting for the Texans here to get Coach Brown on campus sooner rather than later?
Wow. This is such a Bronco guy question.
No, this is coming from professional sports media covering Nebraska. If you're in Nebraska, I think you want Coach Braden on campus sooner rather than later. So I think you're supposed to root against the Chiefs.
I think they've done a good job with their defensive line without a guy. I would like that. You know what? I would really like, because, we're going to go through a cold spell here for Terry. I would hope that he's able to stay in Kansas City until the middle of February.
We'll have to agree to disagree.
Man.
And you know what? Nowadays, it's all about Zoom. You can work remotely. You can work from home.
You can watch practice with your
there's the studies. Work from home employees, Gary, less efficient than those that are in the office.
I know what you're doing. I'm not going to bite.
Depends where you're working from home at.
I'm not gonna bite on this conversation.
Sure.
I mean,
are you in the lower bowl, or are you in a suite today?
300 level.
Okay.
Which are good seats. See, the thing about Arrowhead, unless you are like where they put Jordan Love's mom and girlfriend when the Packers played there, that stadium is almost all the seats are pretty good. I don't like sitting low for a football game. And like in the 100.
Why is that?
Because I am a firm fan of sitting up higher. Like, let's use Memorial Stadium as an example. I like to sit up higher because you can see the play develop.
Mm-hmm.
Listen,
I think if you're sitting too low, you don't get a perspective on where the football is, and you don't get to see. I just like to be above and look down.
That's also something that us poor people say when those are the only seats we can afford.
No.
It's just like, hey, no, I like to see the plays.
You and I have had this discussion. Yeah. I think the 600 level is a really, really good seat at Memorial Stadium. I know
that is where I'm at,
because you have your own escalator up. You have your own. The vomitories are not as many. There's not as many people. You're up high. You can look. You can see Grand Island from where you're sitting. And sometimes they play games in November and it might be cold, but they fix the lights where all the bugs were. But I like where you can see the play develop. We talk about we've gone on this thing for a couple of years, guys, about, man, wide receivers are running wide open. That's why I like going to the games and sitting up, like in the 6th floor of the press box, because you can actually see if guys are wide open, if they've schemed wide receivers. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I have a really good friend who, for the longest time at Memorial Stadium, has got seats behind the bench, behind the Nebraska bench. And he fortunately last year got switched so he could still be behind the Nebraska bench. But he's like in the 4th row. And I never have understood. He goes, oh, it's great. And I'm like, you can't see.
Everyone's
you watch the game on Husker Vision. I'm not paying that kind of money to watch the game on Husker Vision.
You can't see Ja'Cory Barney when he's lined up on the near side, like at all.
Yeah.
Kraynak will vouch.
Davis is standing there holding up his
your seats, Kraynak, are good and comfortable spot. We saw Tommy Armstrong's first career start and froze our butt off against Illinois.
That's the thing up there in the 600 level is like whatever the weather is doing, man.
It might be different up there.
Every bit of it. Like there was an Iowa game 2014 or 15, I can't remember exactly, and the wind was just blasting your face the entire game, and it was negative 50,000. It was just crazy.
All right, hot take. My preferred way to watch football, in one of the end zones, about 40 rows up.
Bam.
So you're an all 22 kind of guy.
Oh, big time.
So I agree with you.
Sit between the goalposts.
Yeah, between the goalposts. The hard thing is when it's on the other end of the field.
Exactly. Then it's so compressed. You can't tell at all what's happening. That is rough. Up in the corner where I'm at, 613, it does not sway. That's not true, Kobe. That is not true. That is true. I have sat up there multiple times and the thing does not sway. That is you having
Kobe, how much Jack Daniels have we had before kickoff, my brother?
You're swaying, bro. The stadium's fine. The stadium is fine.
You know what? This would be a great off-season topic of because the obstructed view calendar is out, and the one, I think it's section 11, where there is a seat that is directly behind the pillar, is like the cover of the obstructed view calendar from Memorial Stadium. A guy went around the country and watched one football game in every stadium that had the best obstructed view. So he went, I think it was the UTEP game, and he got that seat that's right behind the pillar. So you're looking left, you're looking right, but it says right in front of you, this is an obstructed view seat, and Nebraska still sells it. This would be a good, what is the best seat in Memorial Stadium? Because if you're between like the 30s and you have the means, the 200 and 300 level, that club level, and then on the other side as well, on the east and west are great seats.
Yeah,
are great seats.
I've sat up there on the east side for a couple of games, and ooh, those are great seats.
Well, another thing, before they added the addition on the East Stadium, I loved, you remember they had the little overhang?
Yep.
There were only like 10 rows of seats, but they had the little
Which is
overhang.
now club seating.
Yeah, but those were great seats, especially if you were in the front row.
Oh, yeah.
We were west balcony, about 10 up, right, a little bit further to the right of where one of the Husker Vision Jumbotrons was at. So we weren't hanging over the edge, but west balcony from 91 through 98 is where Dad had his seats, man. And it was awesome. It was so good. Not only a good era to be there, but just the viewpoint was fantastic. But no, the club level at 200-300 levels incredible, and the play developing from where we're at in the box is awesome. It's so cool to see.
It is cool though, the stark difference when you're sitting up there, and then if like you go down at halftime and walk the track, go into the tunnel for the start of it. It's such a different experience in terms of the speed and violence when you're close, though, right? When you're close up compared to up there, it's striking, and it's borderline shocking to people that maybe aren't used to football. Just like, whoa, yeah, this is that is some serious. Those are some serious collisions going on. So you miss that, you miss all those things, and then if your vision's failing a little bit because you're getting older, hypothetically speaking, numbers kind of blur together. You're like, who is that? Is that number 84 or
the
17?
most coveted seat
know.
in the 2017 season was that obscured pillar seat, though.
That's true. That becomes the best seat in the house.
Stick me behind the pillar so I don't have to watch.
Stare into the concrete.
But on a different note, but about the stadium, I mean, just think like Trev's plan. We would be a couple of months into the South Stadium being non-existent.
God.
And we don't know how much longer. I thought it would be rolled out by now, but they have the new, what Memorial Stadium is going to look like. They just have to roll it out.
Party deck.
Yeah. Well, all of, they're the grass field that coincides with the different looking Memorial Stadium. I think it was supposed to, they were trying to get it done before Christmas. They were going to do it shortly after Christmas. We're now to the middle of January. I imagine that's coming sooner than later, that they will make the presentation and they're going to ask for money and,
Now they're making the end zones red too, or was that just like a social media thing?
The end zones are going to be red.
Starting this year.
Can confirm.
We haven't discussed that yet, guys. This changes everything.
Good thing there's a show next week.
Yeah. One more thing.
Hey, that'll look great when it's Pinstripe Bowl weather. Hey, speaking of the Pinstripe Bowl, Elijah, you have connections. They need to stop with the promo for season tickets. They need to rewrite it, because if you've been to a Husker sporting event post Pinstripe Bowl, they're like, as we celebrate the Pinstripe Bowl victory, it's your time now to get in Memorial Stadium for 2025 for 7 home games. And I'm like, every time I hear it, I'm like, no, we're not celebrating the Pinstripe Bowl. It's already over. We celebrated on Sunday. We've moved on.
When did that celebration stop? Oh, the whole week. Just been kazoos. Like, what is that? That is not good.
But it's the ad to sell season tickets, and that's the first thing they say. And I'm like, I looked at my friend. I was like, I don't know. Maybe do something else.
That's funny.
Jeez. As we tolerate the Pinstripe Bowl victory.
Another thing about this discussion, this is a good off-season discussion, is I would be livid if you're in the 100s and you're further back, so you're underneath, you have the overhang.
Right.
Man, the obstructed view. If I paid good money and I had to look through a pillar, because what is it? The first 40 up are in front of the pillar, and then everything else is behind it.
So like 15.
I'd be livid. It's like going to Wrigley Field. Wrigley Field has a lot of those obstructed view seats as well.
Have you ever watched a game from the rooftop?
On the 7th floor?
I'm talking. You mentioned Wrigley. Have you watched
Oh, no.
Cubs game
No.
from the.
I
from the
thought we were
rooftops.
talking the 7th floor Memorial Stadium where they used to
I
put
had to do
Tara
a
and you.
state championship game
What?
from the 7th floor.
Or how come they've never allowed people to watch the game from the top of Old Father?
I don't know.
For fear of people jumping in a bad game.
No, that's scary though, dude. That top as you walk out to the camera well on the 7th floor.
Yeah.
I had to spot the Michigan State Nebraska game 2015.
Yeah.
For Gino Toretta, and that's where they stuck old Gino. 4 degrees that day, no windows,
wow.
froze our ass off. But you're up there and you're walking, and it's been a while, but you're walking from the 7th floor elevator on top of the West Stadium, to the the exile to Siberia.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're just like, oh my God, you're so high up.
And
but you can
folks,
see the
folks that
rest of
don't
the
know,
world.
as a spotter, which is like this little, it's kind of this random little gig that you can get within radio and TV. It's like you're sitting next to the play-by-play or color announcer. You have a large chart with all the different numbers and players, and your job literally, as the guy is talking, is to point
who
to the
made
person
the tackle.
who made the tackle or like made the catch, if it's, something like that. And then so the announcer can just look down and be like, and the tackle made by Frank Smith.
Well,
like
it's too bad
job.
because
You get actually paid for that.
Of the weather. Your lips got frozen if you were the play-by-play guy because it was so cold for that Michigan State Nebraska game.
Yeah, it was.
So it was hard for the announcer to say Nate Gary. I mean, he just would slur it because his lips were so cold.
Like that? What is that? What does it
It
sound
was
like?
Gowie.
Gowie?
Gowie.
Gowie.
You sound like my little niece. Gowie.
I was gonna say.
G-A-W?
That's
It's
cute
Gowie
for
Shop.
you. That wasn't cute for 3.5 hours, that poor dude.
Hey,
Now
do you,
joined by Gowie Shop.
do you think that season tickets will sell out in Lincoln this year? You've got Michigan, USC, and Iowa are 3 of your home games.
It better
And-
because that's a sweet home schedule.
A lot of teams with yellow as their secondary color. Wow. I think that alone is going to make it so. Probably not. Probably not.
Yeah, they'll sell out. They'll sell out.
Yeah, it should. It should. The seat yourself process comes up too. And so I'm always tempted. So 613, row 2, right?
Mhm.
And up there, by the way, there's this little cove when you come up on the 600 level. There's only 2 rows in front of like the concourse walkway, right? So it's 2 rows, wall behind you, and then all the other rows.
Mhm.
And so we have this little kind of cove, right? There's no one behind us, just a wall, except there's a lady that sits up kind of near the handicap section that curses the officials very uncomfortably for most of the game.
That's awesome.
I mean, she's mad. Oh man,
Does
but
she get creative? I mean, does she, as Leach would put it, is she an artful swearer?
I mean, yeah, like
She's good at it.
The F word, she uses every derivative each quarter, right? It's an adjective, it's a noun, it's a verb, it's like every single way. But it's so strange. Like, and because at some point you're just like, they can't hear you. Like you are just angry. Like you're just like angry in general.
See, that's me in traffic. Whenever I'm like, sitting behind somebody and I scream at people in traffic and I know they can't hear me. I don't get out of my car. I'm not like one of those crazies, but I do sit there and what the heck are you doing?
So you road rage a little bit?
It makes me feel better. It's not for them. It's for me.
Are you liable to get out? Like if
no, that's what I'm saying. I would never get out.
But he could with the mustache and stocking hat.
I tend to gesture wildly in the roundabout whenever people are idiots in the roundabout. I do tend to do that. So if you're out there and I've ever gestured wildly at you at the roundabout, I do apologize.
Well, if you're the person to the left, you got to slow down. I mean,
death they don't give you person in Subaru not obeying the roundabout.
As we have seen in Omaha and Lincoln, we got fascinated with the roundabout, and now we just build huge roundabouts, but they don't ever give people directions. Like people come in and they get confused as they don't know where to go. They stop, they keep going around in a circle. I mean, that roundabout just outside of Memorial Stadium. Oh, gee, it doesn't matter if it's a game day or non-game day. There are so many confused people by that roundabout. And then that big roundabout off of what is it?
14th Superior.
Yes, which is like the mega
It's a death
roundabout.
trap.
Oh yeah.
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 Well,
They have a mega
Google-
roundabout in Omaha as
Google
you're like you're
Map-
going towards Omaha Bryan High School.
The maps don't really know how to deal with the roundabouts either. They're just like, keep left, take right. Oh god, and then it's too late, and then you're just going in circles.
I have there's a pointless tiny roundabout in my neighborhood that just kills me. There's no point for it. I don't understand why there's a roundabout there. They added it there. It was like a 3-month-long project. We come out and they took
Only
it.
3?
Was the problem. And it's a pointless. It's like
Is it landscaped in the middle? Maybe it adds to the kind of the cultural value.
There's tire tracks across the middle because you don't see it. You don't see it in
a
the
road raged Elijah Herbel. There's tire tracks across the middle.
No, there's always people
roundabout.
stopping in the roundabout. I'm like, no, you do not stop in the roundabout. People treat it like a 4-way stop. It just makes me want to.
Elijah treats it like a ramp.
Yeah.
You know,
Kobe says in the stream, the signs leading into the roundabout aren't directions, Gary. Now I can read, but people don't know what they get confused.
Well, because
they get in the roundabout and they don't know how to get out of the roundabout.
Well, this stuff gets real fast.
People treat it like a 4-way stop, and it's not. If you're out there and you treat a roundabout like a 4-way stop, it's not. You just yield to the left. That's all you do. Very simple. If there's someone coming from the left, you stop, you wait for them, you go on your gap. If there isn't anybody coming from the left, you just go.
It's a seam route if you're a tight end.
But that's sort of opposite the rest of traffic, right? Like, right? I think that's where people get confused. It's like normally you don't cross in front of anybody, right? Like that's just not a thing you do unless you have an arrow. And so that's what makes it weird.
You also can't have an open container trying to navigate around.
Okay, Brent Musburger.
What's next? What is next? I didn't see that posted. On
we are back tomorrow for the Average Joe Sports Show.
Can I mention one thing? Somebody asked about the new quote unquote the new Memorial Stadium. It is my understanding is that nothing will happen until after the 26th season because Dannon wants as much capacity for the Tennessee game on September 12th of 26.
He mentioned that too. He did talk about that. He's kind of an enigma, man.
Well, at least they're keeping Tennessee on the schedule. I love that.
Yeah. I mean, I think you know, of all the like unique road venues to go to, and Nebraska fans show up, I think there'll be a lot of people trying to get into Neyland Stadium.
Well, I
think that'll be a cool trip.
Pre-game on a barge on the river.
I would think there will be 26. There will be a good amount of Tennessee fans that will come to Lincoln. They've already, you know, most of them have come to the College World Series, had a good time. They'll come back. They love their football. Yeah,
they were good folks back in the bowl game days too.
I love that for the championship game.
I've been keeping my fingers crossed that this game does not leave the schedule.
Sure.
And I don't think it will. I mean, if Dannon is saying we don't want to start stadium construction until after Tennessee, which will give them, you know, 90,000+ people, that'll be a legit 90,000 game. I can see that.
One thing I'll say about Tennessee, good fans, cool place to go watch a game. The song Rocky Top, ooh, after every first down, it's just too much.
It's great.
We don't need it after every first down. That just it grinds your gears after a little bit.
Every first down they do that. Yeah.
No. Boomer Sooner and USC are far more annoying than Tennessee.
Well, what about Nebraska's third down music selection? What is that song? It's kind of sounds like chimes. You know what I mean?
Oh, the NFL Films music.
Yeah, that one's terrible. It's
Mark hates bands.
Yeah,
I don't hate bands.
Anti-music.
I love music. Give me more music, like Gojira and Korn. I went and saw that.
You've been lobbying for Korn for 25 years, and I love it.
Now I'm on the Gojira tip. Gojira's got some serious.
So let's see.
You're not Kobe. Kobe's just killing everybody today. Kobe's just in the stream.
Like the LSU band plays during like a series. Of course, Boomer Sooner.
Chord sucks.
That's a talent right there.
Thank
Gary,
you.
you just changed your voice into a kazoo. What?
did.
Do that again. That was
I don't-
amazing.
I don't think I
That was like a
We're
card
gonna,
trick.
he's gonna take requests.
Play Wonderwall.
Play Freebird.
Play me. Play me some Creed. Do it now.
Anybody that's just listening assumes you picked up an instrument and just made that sound, but that was Gary's just. That was
In case they come back with a police academy, I could be the guy that makes all the sounds. Michael
Oh, I
Winslow.
like that.
That guy.
Love it.
What was his name? Michael what?
I think it was Michael Winslow.
Yeah,
Because he was a comedian that then after the police academy movies got big, he just went around and that's all he did for his act.
Which, yeah, it's amazing. Like,
It's like,
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Gary just imitated R2D2. That was.
It's early.
Yeah,
I haven't been outside yet.
he's got to build up to R2D2. Sharpie, we'll let you work on the sound effects.
Who wins Monday night? Does the Big Ten win 2 straight NCAA championships?
Give me
I
Ohio,
want Notre Dame to win.
give me Ohio State
What?
34-24. A lot of points.
Yeah.
Why do you want Notre Dame to win? That is really hard to hear from
think-
you. Keep change,
Well,
man.
I think Watts and the Rezek kids. I mean, from a Nebraska perspective, I think it'd be good for them. And I like what Notre Dame's doing.
Yeah, Ohio State has not done a good job of recruiting Nebraska, and it's starting to cost them.
How about this? Think
That's my
about it.
selfishness. Sorry, I'm going for Notre Dame.
Xavier Watts from Omaha Burke is a dude. I mean, he's one of the best defensive backs, best defensive players in college football. Teddy Rezak is going to start because I know his dad DJ, which I know a lot of people know DJ. He told me yesterday, Teddy is on the kickoff and punt return starting units. And think about this. Marcus Freeman, they thought they had Carter Nelson. Remember how hard they recruited Carter Nelson?
Big time.
And remember Nebraska at the last moment brought the whole staff in to basically reiterate their commitment that, man, Carter, you're our guy. But think about that. Notre Dame could have 3 guys, playing for them. And one of the leprechauns is a graduate of Omaha Creighton Prep.
That I know.
Really? I didn't know that.
Who recruits the Omaha area for Notre Dame?
Al Golden.
Does he really? And how would
So
he?
Xavier committed to Brian Kelly. So when they were recruiting him, Brian Kelly and 2 other assistants just came to the Burke weight room and watched Xavier work out.
Huh.
That was like their first, connection to him. But Al Golden is the person that recruits Omaha for Notre Dame.
Former Miami head coach.
And you think about it.
He's done awesome.
Notre Dame for the longest time has recruited Nebraska high school players. They had that stretch
for sure. Ty Good
they had that one stretch in the 90s, early 2000s where it seemed like every year there was at least one player. It wasn't from Elkhorn, Trevor Robinson.
Yeah, he was their
Robinson,
offensive guard that went.
Junior Bryant.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've recruited it pretty well for quite some time. I'm just surprised to hear Chris say you're going for Notre Dame. These are two kind of unlikable schools, though, right? These are 2 schools that
we had this conversation.
My favorite national championship team, not named in Nebraska.
Tony Rice.
Is the 88. Notre
was that
Dame
when Rocket was there or Tony Rice?
He might have been a freshman, but it was Tony Rice. It was Stonebreaker. It was Zorich. I love Chris Zorich.
Yeah, that's fair.
And
I didn't know you were a closet Notre Dame fan.
I'm a closet 1998, not make that 1988 Notre Dame fan.
Okay. Two pretty unlikable teams, though, right? I mean,
I think Marcus Freeman has made Notre Dame likable.
We'd had this conversation a couple weeks ago. Notre Dame is weirdly likable this season. Not to mention their offensive line pregame speeches are incredible. I can't wait.
Kraynak, did we not have a hell of a time at linebackers and in South Bend?
I mean, absolutely.
I mean, how can you hate on that? You go kick their ass in overtime, take over their stadium, and they're buying you beer.
Well. Now this was great when we first rolled up to Notre Dame Stadium and got out of the minivan because we're in a minivan. It was four
Fell
of us.
out of the minivan.
Yeah, fell out of the minivan on about an hour and a half sleep, staying at a Camp KOA in Elkhart, while Mennonites were like going by in their scooters.
You about clipped a horse in a buggy.
Yeah, that was a different experience. But seriously, as soon as we get out and we start making our way over to the stadium, but we only walked like 20 feet or so, and then there's a gentleman that's tailgating, a Notre Dame guy, that has a pillowcase full of airplane bottles. I mean, sort of like if you went trick or treating with a pillowcase, and he just did that and got airplane bottles. There was probably, I don't know, 300 in there. He's like, "Hey, gentlemen, welcome. Here, dig in, have a drink." And so we're just like, okay.
We did.
Because that was an early game too, right? Wasn't it an 11 kick?
It was
No, it was like 1:30 on NBC.
You were on the sidelines for that, Sharp, weren't you? In the end zone with Crouch's win.
Yeah.
Did you see us?
Got spit on.
Did you see us? We were up in the.
Were you guys wearing red? I think I saw you then.
I dropped $500 and I had a Regent's seat, so I was in the lower bowl.
They should do.
That's right. You did big time us.
They should do a 30 for 30 on how Nebraska fans got their tickets for that game.
It rocked Notre Dame's entire apparatus.
I paid out of my
they changed the how they distribute the faculty and staff tickets after that. But just that Nebraska
Colorado
fans
did a very similar thing,
because Nebraska fans for the Notre Dame game, they would just go on the faculty list and you'd email and go, "Hey, are you interested in selling your tickets?" "Oh yeah. What are you giving me? You're giving me $500 for 2 tickets. Here you go." And the next thing you know, the sea of red took over in South Bend.
They were shocked. They did not know what to do. Colorado did something really similar, because you could buy Colorado season tickets for, I think, $300 total. And so there was a group of us in 2019. Or 2019. Yeah, 2019 that did that. Just bought Colorado season tickets and then sold USC and Stanford, and when Stanford was still kind of respectable, and pretty much broke even, and then stayed on the Colorado mailing list. And it's like,
I'm sure you have, Kraynak.
they changed it to where in the last time Nebraska went there in 2023, that if there was like a 402 area code or an Omaha address or a Nebraska address, they did some sort of like double check to make sure that, hey, are you really a Colorado fan here? It's like, no, nobody is.
This K-State bull crap that they used to pull. We were doing the pregame show, and we had the late Paul Hornung came into the booth, and we were chatting. And as we were chatting, that one end zone to the left of the press box was filling up with red. I mean, it like the first people into the stadium were Nebraska fans, and they came in droves. And Paul Hornung, and we're in the middle of the interview, takes off his headset, sticks his head out the window, and is screaming at the Notre Dame people that had sold their tickets. Like, we're on air, and Paul Hornung is having a meltdown because of all the Nebraska fans.
Did he know that those people were not there to hear him? Kind of like the lady behind me.
I do not know. I also did not know that Paul Hornung was going through it at the time.
What was he going through?
He was battling some alcoholism and some other things.
Okay.
But then he put his headset back on and continued the interview, but he was livid. He was like, he's like, "Well, the Nebraska fans, I know they're good, but," he goes, "these Notre Dame people, that's not how we do it here." And I'm like,
it is.
Well, welcome.
There's your evidence.
You know what? We just made what 2,000 in South Bend in your economy with the crappy hotels that we all stayed in, the parking prices, but it was kind of fun. The campus was nice to tour. The stadium was nice, and the win in overtime was nice.
What city are we taking over this year? Are we going?
Let's go to Minneapolis.
Minneapolis was great.
Hey,
I love
it. That's a good call. That's a good call. Look at. So it was the Thursday. The weather was nice. There were a lot of Nebraska fans up in Minnesota for the opener last year.
Yeah,
that's a middle of October. I mean, I do have memories of the hoodie gate, because I think that was the middle of October when Nebraska played up there and guys were wearing hoodies and all that.
Pre-global warming. That was years ago.
Yeah.
We're fine now.
We had a great time coverage and shows for the Thursday night opener. We were there in 19. Be the Graduate right across the stadium. We'll do shows there. It'll be awesome.
Schmidt, I don't want to go back to that steakhouse though. That I think it was Murray's. I mean, it was good.
Murray's was great. The pepper sauce is what did us in.
Oh my god!
You guys both had a gut bomb that Saturday morning.
Oh, it was bad.
We got hit by a
really
freaking train. We got after it.
I think so. The Penn State ticket will be tough because it's whiteout. I think that'll be their whiteout game. That's their last home game of the regular season. UCLA will be where you will see a ton of Nebraska fans.
UCLA,
definitely.
Yeah, you can go to the Rose Bowl. It'll be Pasadena. It's November. There won't,
there's pretty good alumni base there too. Yeah.
And it's the Rose Bowl.
Yeah,
it's not the day of the Rose Bowl game, but it still is the Rose Bowl, which, by the way, looks completely different for a UCLA game compared to Nebraska or the regular Rose Bowl. But they also, remember, they have tarps on the seats at the Rose Bowl, so the capacity is way down. There'll be a ton of red in that stadium.
We'll start in Arrowhead. We'll get to Minneapolis, and then presumably a good bowl spot, or maybe better.
I want to see a whiteout, so I might be heading out.
Dude, you have fun. You're going to Siberia. There's no easy way to get. I've never been, but I refuse to go to Happy Valley.
If it's the whiteout game, a whiteout game at Penn State's on my college football bucket list.
So anybody that has been to Penn State, I've not been either, but I've heard the horror stories where like Harrisburg, I think, is the nearest airport, right?
Yep.
So that's where you fly into.
Fly into Baltimore, and then you got drive,
and then you got like an hour and a half or two through like a 1-lane mountain road or something to get to Happy Valley. Is that how it goes?
Yeah.
And so
you get off the main interstate.
Is what the traffic?
Well,
is it just backed up, or because that sounds like a pretty nice drive? So I'm just wondering why. It
gets backed up, and you can't drive 80, but the weather. So I've been there a couple of times. I mean, try driving that road because it's curvy because you're coming through the mountains. It's snowing, the wind's blowing, you can hardly see. But I knew my first trip to State College, I knew that I was in a whole different world when you are driving on this. It's a 2-lane highway. It looks like you're in small town America, which you are as you weave your way into. State College is not enormous, and the stadium is the biggest thing in town. I saw almost every yard had something about Joe Paterno. They would have a Joe Paterno on their mailbox that was right by the highway. They would have a Joe Paterno like in the garden, like something to Joe Pa. And I'm like, wow, we are in a whole different world here.
What year was that?
That was the year that Nebraska went up there and wore all white.
02?
02, yes.
Oh, when the Nebraska changed uniforms
and
for
absolutely got curb stomped after the game. With where the visiting locker room was that year, you walk under the stands and you're walking with people. People are exiting and you're walking to your locker room, and that's where they had the spitting incident. They had almost a full-scale brawl. Incognito almost killed a guy. Like
that was like 42.
And he did it. And he did in the second quarter. I mean, he choked some dude out.
Yeah, it was. But they're redoing their. They're in the middle. They got a $700 million project that they're just kicking off now.
Because the thing you hear about that stadium is obviously impressive in size, but structurally, architecturally, it looks like an erector set.
Yeah,
it just looks like an overgrown former Ryan Field at Northwestern. It's just there's not much to it. It seems like it would be a cool trip, but I don't know. You guys are kind of talking me out of it. Back to a little tip though. Seriously, the season ticket approach. My brother did the same thing for Wake Forest. Remember when Nebraska played at Wake Forest? $100 for the entire season, and he was like 40-yard line, third row.
Wow.
Yeah, seriously, you just bought.
That's still too much money to go to Winston-Salem.
So, like for when Nebraska is playing on the road against a team that's maybe not well supported, it's not a bad idea to look into getting some season tickets. And then if they catch fire, if they're good,
you can sell them,
right? And think about Wake Forest. Like if you're traveling to Winston-Salem, like you automatically in your head are saying, I'll spend $100 for a ticket if I need to. You get the whole season. Not bad.
What? So like maybe right now you could confidently say 2 road games will sell out. Penn State and I'll go Penn State and Arrowhead maybe, but I think Minnesota will sell out.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have as big a stadium to fill.
Is there something I'm missing with Arrowhead? It's been a long time since I've been there. I haven't been to Arrowhead in forever. I think like middle school, high school or something. Got end zone seats when those came open. They were significantly cheaper than, on the sidelines and all that. But I think it was 16th row in the end zone. I don't know, $100 a seat or something, just low comparatively. Is there something I'm missing there? Are those like all squeezed together? Are those obstructed view? Like why would those be? Huh. Good to know. Good to know. Are we going to do a show down there? Are we going to do some barbecue? Can we get a barbecue?
Yeah, we're doing it's a Thursday show, Thursday game.
Hail Varsity Radio tailgate.
So we'll be there. We'll do Wednesday shows. We'll do Thursday tailgate show. The Snitley boys we're in cahoots with them to be in the parking lot to do a show there. We'll do post game from the parking lot, and then might as well just stay for the weekend and catch baseball.
Snitley family among the founding members of Husker Vision.
Well, they're actually the Boulder Peace Treaty folks that we go back to that 2023 Colorado game. So we're all set up. We're pretty locked in with the setup since I think 2019 for Minneapolis, the Graduate. We've been doing shows in Minneapolis for years. So.
And for folks that haven't gone to that one, they did such a good job with that stadium. It's newer, right? 10 years old, 15. It's not that old, but it looks like it's been there. Like they did such a good job of. It doesn't feel like antiseptic or anything. It's got a ton of brick. It's spacious. They did a really good job with that one. It's fun.
Sharpie,
Mark, I can't wait.
Give me a score, Sharpie Claus, on Monday night before we get out.
Chris was trying to cut us off, Elijah. We'll continue that in just a second.
28-17 Ohio State.
Okay.
I think Notre Dame, one injury too much. I don't know that Notre Dame can score on Ohio State. But if they make the game boring, they've got a shot.
If they win, they have to absolutely dominate the lines of scrimmage.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a chance for Leonard to get loose on the run, I think, because I think Ohio State's probably going to run some man on him. And
can the Irish get after the Ohio?
He's a good enough runner.
Can the Irish defensive line, that front seven, cause problems?
Yep.
Ohio State's line's been inconsistent, I guess we'll say. We know they're capable. We know it's all, all they have is 5 stars there. But Nebraska got to them. And is that a guy? Do you believe in Will Howard to engineer something if it's tight? Right,
don't ask him to win it. Ask him to distribute.
I think I trust Will Howard to say, "Screw it, Jeremiah Smith's down there somewhere."
Yeah, but then you're dealing with Xavier Watts.
It'll be hard. It'll be hard to do.
I mean,
under pressure.
Texas double teamed Jeremiah Smith, and
everyone else.
They have another guy on the other side that's not too bad.
They took him
2
out.
or 3.
Yeah. I just realized it's going down here. I'm gonna have to name this conversation something in the podcast form, and I got no idea what we hit.
The hodgepodge.
I think it's empty calories. I think that's the title.
There we go.
That's the show. But what do I name this segment with Gary?
Okay.
Empty calories.
Empty calories.
Empty calories.
I think we named the segment with Sharpie. Stick 'em up.
Empty calories in focus or something like that. It was a little bit deeper. We went deeper on the empty calories with Gary. Gary just shows up, talks, and then writes the headlines without even meaning to. That's the kind of poet this guy is.
All right. I'll give you a scouting report on how Arrowhead looks.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that means I got to go, Mark.
Yeah.
No.
He's going to Arrowhead when you were taking care of the dog.
What time's the game start?
3:30. And we're leaving in 11 minutes.
You got time for one more thing.
No, I don't.
Yeah, you do. It's 2.5 hours on the interstate.
Not from Omaha.
There's also traffic. And I want to go tailgate.
Gary,
you have to rob a place beforehand.
Sharpie.
Elijah, I appreciate you. Mark, you know what? Tune in tomorrow and you can watch us discuss what you wanted to discuss.
Hit the comment section, Mark, and we'll get to it.
Yeah, when y'all are doing that, like, yeah,
That's
can I?
not nice.
If I talk, listening to the podcast, can you guys hear me when I do that?
That's funny.
I'm just gonna
Sharpie, be good. Enjoy. Bart,
Thanks,
appreciate
guys.
you, man. Thank you.
Roll safe. Roll safe.
That was good. 2 hours on a Saturday. My dear God.
Yeah.
All right, back to stadium architecture, though.
Jesus.
Yeah.
All right.
Please.
We'll be back tomorrow, 10:30 with the Average Joe Sports Show pod. Kraynak, we'll get you a link.
No, you won't. This is a lie. This is a lie.
That's Mark Kraynak, Elijah Herbel, Chris Schmidt. Like and subscribe. Hail Varsity YouTube, Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter, KFOR, Facebook, and Twitter. We'll holler at you next time. Thanks for tuning in to Hail Varsity.
Listen to my alternate podcast, Above Average Joe. Huh?
That's not a real thing.
Huh? That's not.